Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Hewlett-Packard's Lab podcast from Research to Reality. Today, I have extreme honor and pleasure to host Andrew Wheeler. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, Dejan.
Andrew is HPE Fellow and SVP and also Director of all of HPE Labs. And today we'll be talking about technology trends reaching out into 2030. But before we do that, can you give us a few words about you, Andrew?
So let's see, here in a few weeks, I will be completing year 31 in the company, HPE and Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, HPE. So I like to tell people I started old school HP, test and measurement. So, but yeah, from there I've done, amazing number of different roles, almost entirely in research and development on, the full breadth of the company. So it's been an amazing career.
Is it coincidence that Antonio, our CEO, also started as a test engineer?
It is, and I also joke. I think I started just a few months before he did. Seniority. Joke a little bit. Well, he's done a little better than I have, but that's also one of the things I've learned is I don't know that I would want his job, or I'm doing what I should be doing. So I'm at least self-aware in that.
Feeling good in your skill.
That's right.
Can you tell us your role as the HPE Labs Director? What does it entail?
Yeah, I think it's, because labs is as a whole, right? We're the applied research group for the entire company. So, the role means a big part of it is being a connector. So making sure we're connecting with the business groups, where do they need help? Where can we help them? Being a connector with customers, the industry. So, there's a lot of range there that I think comes into play. So, but at the end of the day, that's a big part of my role is trying to, be a connector across all of those things.
And while you are connecting, what are the roles and responsibility of labs towards these businesses that we are connected to?
Yeah, I think we have a few, obviously we're a unique organization in the company. It starts with business impact. That's the first thing, we are chartered to do. And if you go all the way back to our founding, 60 years ago, it was all about having a group that could look, beyond the horizon, look beyond, kind of that day-to-day activity to say, hey, what's coming next? Where do we need a point of view on where things are going? What type of IP do we need to be developing? What type of hard problems do we need to be solving on behalf of our customers? So starts with business impact. We're also within the office of the CTO. So there's also a role that we have kind of connecting or, connecting across the company. So anytime there's an initiative where we need to gather and have a perspective across the company on something, whether it's helping with like AI training, product security, standards bodies, things like that, we can kind of be that point of consolidation, to make that happen. So that's a big part of it. And then I would say the last thing is just, industry and thought leadership. So, we get very involved in helping, set policy or provide feedback on policy that's getting established, whether that's in the U.S., Europe, Asia Pacific. It could be local policy, national policy. We have a lot of that going on right now with AI and quantum, and sovereignty, data privacy, and so we help provide a perspective around that. But yeah, that's probably a short run of it.
So you mentioned that one of the top priorities is business impact and looking beyond current horizons, which is exactly the topic that we're looking at today.
Imagine that.
So how did you decide to do that, to communicate this? Because there's a whole story behind it. It's not just that we decided to do this podcast. Yeah. You are releasing the press release, and there's going to be technology trends sponsored by labs.
Yeah, obviously I can't personally take credit for all of this. When I joined Labs, this was something that was done on an annual basis. We put together, we called it mega trends at the time for many years, and it was all about looking out in the industry, doing a lot of interviews across the company and trying to establish, hey, here are the, kind of big mega trends that are going to shape the industry and the company, for the next, time frames change, but sometimes, 5 years is usually a pretty good time horizon to use. And, for different reasons, I think we got out of that practice. But then last year, we had a really good opportunity, I think, working closely with corporate strategy because they had a similar initiative that they wanted to have a conversation with Antonio and the EC. And so we were able to kind of combine our efforts, with that to push out, kind of a trend or analysis last year. And then we just, kind of continued that this year.
So let's get to the point. What are these trends that you identify, you and the labs as a whole?
Yeah, I think there's a number of ones, but we did do some synthesis and kind of distilled it down to, kind of 5 key things that we're looking at, namely because we think obviously that they're vital to the company. They're vital to, the research portfolio that we work on. And the first one is all about, the agentic enterprise and where that's, where is it today and where is it going to be in 5 years? And, I was talking last week around this one. And, if you've been here as long as we have, you'll remember a certain era. If I go back 20 years ago, to me, that's where we first started, kind of the start of this agentic enterprise. It was all about, the infrastructure, blade systems, right? It was converged infrastructure. That was, kind of the big thing 20 years ago. And it was all about, having infrastructure, IT infrastructure that was easy to deploy. It was easy to manage. You were looking to get very high levels of utilization out of it. And so at the hardware level, it started bringing a lot of that together. From there, it progressed a number of different ways into hyperconverged and, of course, the hybrid cloud environments where we are today. So, but now what's kind of, really anchoring all of that or bringing a lot of, when we talk about the adaptive enterprise, what's kind of now bringing it to fruition is all the, development that's happened in the world of AI, and AI really now being that next tool in the toolbox that can bring it all together.
What is the next one? That was the first one.
That's the first one. The next one's all about the grid, the energy grid, and it's not a secret now, given how much energy it takes to do the AI training, to do the inference. So kind of the secret's out on that one, and it's driving a lot of concern, and it's driving, frankly, a lot of innovation as well, because some of the path that we're on, it's not sustainable in terms of the energy demand that AI is creating here. So the opportunity for us then is to bring a lot of the automation from the world of IT. Let's start applying that to the energy sector, bringing those together, and look at things kind of holistically. So if you think about a data center today, well, what comes in? You've got energy that comes in, form of electricity at some level. You've got it connects to the outside world, so you have information that comes in. But ultimately, you take those two things, and you're creating actionable insight, additional forms of data, and heat. And so the opportunity for us on the grid is by, again, applying AI. A number of different things in the various stages where I think we can optimize that flow and ultimately be more efficient with the power that does get generated.
And the two are closely tied together, because the more you use agentic AI, the more you need the grid, and you can use agentic for the grid for agentic, etc.
Correct, but it's all it's about tapping into every possible type of energy source, particularly renewables. When you can. And so that optimization, all of that orchestration around there, that's what goes into that area.
And the more you use AI and the more grid becomes modernized, the footprint for security is much larger. So what do we need then?
Well, we need what we're calling proof before trust. So, zero trust networking or zero trust principles that's been out there for a little while. We're kind of just taking that to the next level. So, well, how do we can convince ourselves that an environment is trustworthy? And so in order to do that, there are certain steps you need. We want to be able to prove to ourselves that trusted relationship, that trusted connection actually works. And so some of the big advances that are happening here are, it's an area we call confidential computing. So today we have the ability to secure data, that encrypt data that's at rest. We can secure and encrypt data that's in transit. And so the next step is now ensuring that when we're actually doing the compute on all that data, it's also in an environment that we can trust and we can prove it. And so it's all about the architecture and the technology that enables that.
And just in case that our current data centers are not sufficient to supply all the computational power for the AI that is needed around the world, do we have alternative technology?
Well, there are certainly some technologies that hold some promise, quantum being one of them, but really other forms of compute, whether it's there's a category called neuromorphic, so analog computing certainly has the ability to compute in very low energy states. So kind of that performance per watt characteristic as we think about essentially doing more and more math operations, linear algebra, which forms the basis for AI and machine learning. But particularly in quantum, that is certainly one of the technologies out there beyond the horizon we think holds a lot of promise. There's still a lot of work that remains in order to achieve a system that achieves what we call quantum supremacy, or can solve a meaningful business or scientific problem. But we do believe as a company we have the right pieces and parts, and then we're collaborating across the industry to build out the architecture or the recipe for how to realize one of these, what we call a hybrid quantum supercomputer.
And does the security perspective change once you apply quantum? Is it the same as before, or we need new types of cryptography or something else?
Yeah, it's almost like you know the answer to that. You're right. There are two pieces to the quantum. There's the computational piece we're talking about and the different use cases around that. But on the flip side, just like AI today, anytime a new technology progresses, the bad actors have that in their toolbox as well. So the other side of quantum is, how do we protect all of those, zero trust environments we talked about earlier? And so, yes, there are new standards that have emerged such that when a cryptographically relevant quantum computer does materialize, then we can ensure a lot of the, whether it's attestation, certification, other methods we use to secure our data is safeguarded against quantum, because frankly, one of the use cases for a quantum computer is to be able to factor very large prime numbers, which underscores a lot of our cryptographic standards today.
So you started with AI, Agentic AI, which is already taking place now, as are LLMs for quite some time. What's on the horizon for AI beyond LLMs?
Yeah, there's a lot of activity in this one right now. LLMs as we know them today, especially the ones we refer to as transformer-based, just amazing progress. Again, I was telling someone last week, normally as labs, when we would go to let's say a leading conference like a NeurIPS or a AAAI, we would see things being presented there, and maybe 2 or 3 years later, you would see something out in the industry. You would see it, making an impact at a customer. And now that time frame has completely shrunk. Like it's now when we start hearing about things in leading conferences and workshops, they're already kind of out there doing things. And that's where we are on LLMs, and just how quickly now things are even progressing beyond, the amazing things that we're using transformer-based models for today. So, that kind of the next big thing everyone's working towards is that reasoning model, and how we're almost, the early days of that, but we're using LLMs and other models together in an agentic fashion to start to, mimic, I would say, some of this reasoning capability, or deep research is kind of what we're calling it today. But we're only going to see, more advances towards that reasoning model as we move forward in the next 5 years.
So you projected these future horizons. If Labs is going to travel down that path, how would you measure our success?
Yeah, our success is simply measured in impact. Are we having a bottom line impact for the company? That's what we do. It's applied research, but that's the end game. And for us, that impact can be direct or indirect. We all like the direct impact, where we're working closely with a product team to help them, bring new features to life, help differentiate those products in the market. I think that's where we all get the most satisfaction. But sometimes it comes through indirect impact, where some of these projects and some of this development takes time. We need collaborators to do that. We don't just do all of this internally. So we work with either customers. In the U.S., we work with national labs. In Europe, same thing. Kind of European initiatives. And so whether it's universities, customers, other, public sector collaborators, that's that indirect impact. And then we want to make sure, we are, again, present and represent HPE such that, we are regarded as an IT leader.
Looking back, what are the successes that you are most proud of?
Oh, gosh, in labs or my career?
Both. The answer is always yes.
It's always
these kinds
yes.
of questions.
Yeah, answer is always yes. I think if I look, I'll start kind of at my career. If I look back, I think, obviously I'm an engineer at heart, so I love problem solving. And I think just the vast number of just customer interactions I've had, or the products I've worked on or I've led, that have had an impact and, really across the globe. I mean, that's pretty amazing if you think about it. So, that's certainly one of them. And then obviously, having now been in labs, for, this phase of my career, I get more satisfaction now, maybe not out of, my patent portfolio or things I do directly, but, again, connecting the team and letting the team have that impact, and, just kind of seeing the enjoyment that comes out of that.
And we did have a couple of patents together.
We do. Yeah.
Was that most gratifying in your career? One thing is most proud of, the other is what is gratifying.
Yeah, gratifying. Look, I've been blessed. I think this company's been amazing to work for all of these years. It's provided me the opportunity to live in a great place, work with unbelievable smart professionals. That's been the most gratifying part. Since I was 16 years old, I've held a, tax-paying job, at least here in the U.S. And whether it's grocery store, loaded trucks at United Parcel Service in college, landscaping. I've worked in a number of areas before joining, HP and HPE. And I can tell you, never take for granted that opportunity to work with true professionals, because it makes a big difference. So that's been the most gratifying, I think, seeing some of the amazing projects we've done, but just working with the talent and the people.
Now, this is not a trick question, but that you committed to most proud of and most gratifying, what would you have done differently if you had a chance?
Oh, I don't know. It's not a question I like. So, I tend to look forward, not the other direction. Yeah, maybe professionally there would be a few things, but I mean, that's really hard to say. And most importantly, like I said, I've been blessed to work with a company, raise a family in a city that's amazing. Travel the world on behalf of the company. So there's not a lot I would do differently.
That's really nice. Looking at the labs as a whole and HP, we take pride that we do for broader good, not just for our own business. Could you give us some examples that labs does?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, it's a really good point and something I think we do take a lot of pride in, and we love getting the phone calls or the collaborations, whether it's, we've had different initiatives over the years. It's, it's kind of a project, it's like a Tech for Good now is kind of the initiative, but, the work we're doing with the International Rescue Committee right now, partnering with several different groups in the company on that to, combat human trafficking is because even personally, that's something my wife and I invest time into. So it is a topic that is very near and dear to us. So that's an amazing one to be associated with. But, I know our networking team is involved in, some projects around, animal tracking. And we've had, a number of projects like that over the years. And it's, even current AI projects that, on the surface may look like, well, it's fitting that collaboration that I talked about earlier. So the digital twin work with the European Union and Destination Earth. Mm-hmm. So even small things like that, where you would think, well, does that really have an impact anytime soon? But, all of this has to start somewhere. So, the team, on their own spare time, they're always eager to say yes or, raise their hand. And I want to be a part of, any initiative like that comes across.
To close this podcast, our audience usually like to know a little bit more about you. So, for example, did you read an interesting book lately that you can recommend?
Oh, yeah. I've got a few teed up for the break. I'm not, I would say, knee-deep in too many right now, but I have a few that are on the to-do list when we hit the break.
And what do you do in your spare time?
Yeah, so I'm a big outdoors person. So, I love to cycle, love to ski. So anything that gets me outdoors, especially with the family, I'm all for that.
Which is especially nice in the place you live.
It is, yeah. I live in northern Colorado, so that offers plenty of opportunity, whether it's summer, all 4 seasons, get out and do something. So snow season is right upon us, so I'm ready to hit the slopes and be it the downhill variety or the backcountry or cross country, all forms, I'll do it.
Hey, thank you very much, Andrew. Great talking to you as
always. Appreciate it, Dejan.